Usual having an archive within a company. It raises a whole lot of questions about what you keep and what you don't keep, and also how you pay for it, because as you would know, if you work in a producing organisation, it's always a struggle to spend money on things that aren't to do with producing your art. Nevertheless, at Sydney Theatre Company, cuts to the archive program are never considered. It's just one of the parts of the organisation that we never even, when it comes to budget time, we never consider dialing back our investment in archive, because we consider it's extremely important to the company and also to Australian culture. About archiving is not, we tend to think of the archive as being of the past, but we are recording today for the future. We will be the past at some point. So it's important to really be mindful of that when we're considering archiving. There are three main purposes to our archive. The first one is heritage. We're interested in the history and the contribution of the organisation and preserving that and sharing that. We're also, because of our position in Australia, interested in the history and achievements of Australian theatre generally. And we're also interested in Australian social history and how the arts depict that. So they're three very, I think they're the kind of fundamental purpose behind it. The second one that actually gives us a lot of operating advantage is that every organisation has business needs when it comes to archiving in terms of record keeping. I imagine it's the same in Hong Kong, where businesses need to keep records for 7 years for tax purposes and legal purposes. Sometimes they're in a box on a shelf, but we're very fortunate that our archivist actually manages those as well. And so if we need them, she will actually retrieve them for us as well. And the other thing that we get a lot of benefit out of is that Judy provides an internal service to our staff. So particularly our education team, our marketing team, management team, and also artists. A lot of people are still, a lot of government organisations are good at this, a lot of private organisations are bad at this. But because we send and receive emails at such a rate these days, and often an email, someone will propose terms to you and you might send an email back saying, okay. That's a legally binding document. In the old days, if someone was to make an offer and you were to approve it, it would have been typed on letterhead and a copy would have gone and a copy would have been kept. And I think that process kept people more mindful of how important and binding that kind of communication is. And I'm still not entirely sure, even with an archivist, that we're doing the best possible job in terms of managing email traffic in and out of the organisation. I don't have an answer on that for you, but I do know that things like electronic file naming protocols, sometimes every executive in an organisation will make up their own way of how to name a document. And I think it would be very useful as an act of archiving for all businesses to come up with some standardised naming protocols. I don't know if CloudGate has an effective one.
You mentioned what your company's budget is. It's 34 million, right? How much does the archive take?
Oh, a tiny amount. In the major scheme of things, it's basically a salary. It is an increasing budget for information technology. But as I said, because of the nature of the archives and the appeal of the archives, we can actually raise, we've been successful in raising money to offset those costs. So it's